I will call to order the meeting for October 15, 2013. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Branson, you're just in time for the most important item of the day, which is the roll call.
There you go.
Popick?
Here.
Blodgett?
Here.
Dietrich?
Here.
Von Wooten? No. Jakubowski?
Here.
Sullivan?
Here.
And Schuster? Here.
Okay. We have a quorum with one absent. Okay. Item 4 is comments from the audience. Anyone wishing to provide any comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5, which is this evening's consent agenda. It consists of minutes from 16 expenditures from September 2013, and then 3 action items being the ordinance levying the additional tax of 0.02% for building and maintenance, insurance policies including business, automobile, commercial liability umbrella, and workers' comp, and then capital project regarding the public restrooms and meeting rooms. Would any trustee like to remove any of these items for a separate vote? Okay, do I hear a motion on the consent agenda as submitted?
I move.
Okay, moved by Francine and second by Blodgett. All in favor?
Aye.
Actually, let's do a roll call on that. I apologize.
Wait, Popick?
Aye.
Blodgett? Dietrich?
Aye.
Jakubowski?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Schuster? Aye.
Okay, and then item 6 is approving our regular agenda. Any additions or modifications to the agenda? Okay, can I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Jakubowski, second by Schuster. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Our agenda is approved. And then item 7 is financial reports. Joy, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, the reports are in your packet. This would be the first month that you will have projections for our 2013-2014 fiscal year. Our 2012-13 year has officially ended, and we have a senior manager here from our audit firm to go over that with you. But if there's any questions on the current stuff, now's the time to ask.
Questions for Joy on the 2013-2014 working budget or any of those reports? Okay. And so item 7B is the report from our auditor.
Right.
So,
This is Matt Vernon, and he's from Lauterbach and Amman, and he'll go over our audit for you. You can either drag a chair or stand up.
Hi.
welcome, Matt.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Matt Barron. I was the senior manager on the audit this year for you. I'm filling in for Jamie tonight to present the audit. I'm going to present 2 different pieces of the audit, the financial statements and the management letter. I guess we'll just kind of get through the management letter quick to get it out of the way, because it's going to end up basically being touched on with a couple of that are within the audit report as well. So I believe you guys have a bound copy of it. There were 3 management letter comments this year. The first one is GASB 61. This is a standard management letter that we're providing to all of our clients because GASB every year decides they need to change and tweak something to, probably to mostly keep us employed, to keep the auditors and the accountants on their toes. So they like to bring out something new. But with GASB 61, this is not really going to affect you guys. It's mostly for when you either have a component unit that be within your financial statement. So we'll evaluate this further with you as we go forward, but it shouldn't really affect you. Number 2 is funds with deficit fund balance. This is every time there's a fund that ends up with a negative fund balance within it, we give a management letter comment. And what this one was for the IMRF fund. And essentially because of the lower property taxes that came in this year after the assessed values were down, this fund had a negative fund balance. So this is going to be a kind of a reoccurring theme as we kind of get through some of the other financial statement funds. But very easy to fix. It's only $16,000. It's not a large problem for you guys, but just something to keep an eye on as you're starting to budget forward into the next year. And third comment is another one, automatic, that we always provide, is the funds over budget. We had 3 funds that ended up being, their expenses being higher than what was budgeted for with the expenses. We only look at the expense side and the total for a fund. We don't typically look at, when it comes to line by line items, it's for the entire fund together. So these were the 3, obviously all small dollar amounts. I'm sure with Joy presenting throughout the year, you guys were aware of these items, but again, not a significant issue since they're small dollars. Just it's something we have to provide to you guys as the board to be aware of it. Any questions on this piece before we start to move into the meat of the financials? I don't consider any of these to be significant for you, just things that we needed to communicate. All right, so as we get into the financial statements themselves, once again this year we gave you guys the unqualified opinion, which is the highest opinion that we provide you. It may sound a little off saying unqualified, but that is actually the highest thing that we give. What unqualified means is that your financial statements are reasonably free of misstatement. That you can be rest assured that the numbers within here basically accurately present what has happened in the library throughout this past fiscal year and where they're at the end of the year. So as we move forward from that, it looks like this, has the Lauterbach name and letterhead at the top. We move forward 2 pages from there is the management letter or management discussion and analysis. What this section, if you want to help, maybe put yourself some light reading sometime, or help put yourself to sleep sometime, you're able to kind of read through this to kind of get a picture of comparisons to the prior year. I'm going to keep moving forward into the actual financial statements. So I'm going to hit on what is discussed in this management discussion and analysis. If we move forward to page 3, this is the statement of net position. There's 2 different page 3s. We have MD&A page 3, and then the actual page 3 of the financials. So page 3 and page 4 is the combined balances of all of your funds at the library. So you have your general fund, your debt service fund, IMRF, et cetera, et cetera. All of those are summed together in these financial in this set of statements, with the addition of, to make it a full accrual, we add on the capital assets and the debt, along with the compensated absences, as you can see on page 4. So for the most part, what a board cares about from these numbers is in the net position area. So on the right bottom column of page 4 is your net position, which I'm sure in the past you're used to it saying net assets. Now it says net position. Again, another GASB thing, keeping us on our toes from year to year. We implemented GASB 63 and 65, which caused this change. Again, who knows why they do such things sometimes, but we felt like everyone was on board with net assets. Now we're in net position. So within net position, you can see you guys have 4.8 million of total net position. Of this amount, 2.5 is your net of capital assets. So that leaves the rest that can be used for other spending. So you have 6,000 that's restricted to be used for FICA, 158,000 for building and equipment, 1,200 that's audit, debt service is 257,000. In those numbers, we'll see those later on as we get into the actual fund balances for these funds. And then finally, the main number that people care about, 1.8 million that's unrestricted. This is essentially the amount that's left over that you guys are able to use for rainy day, capital projects, whatever. This is the amount that's left over. Any questions on these couple pages? Okay, moving on to the next page. This is the income statement of that last financial statements. Not a whole lot to glean from these, in my opinion. We're just going to keep moving forward to your actual fund statements that you guys are more used to seeing on a month-to-month basis. On page 6, it starts your major funds. You have your general fund, debt service, and your special reserve are your major funds of the library. Again, the main pieces that the boards usually care about is down here in the fund balances and how they're doing. So in the general fund, you currently have 738,000 of unassigned fund balance. Debt service, the 257 that we saw previously, because this money needs to be used for debt service payments if it's in this fund. Moving on to the I find that the best place to look at these income statements is actually further back in the financial statements. If you please go to page 28. Well, I like page 28. It shows your income statement, but it also shows your budget. So you're able to put a full picture together of what happened in this fund by looking at these pages. So in here, you can see that you ended up with a total of 130 net change from the last year. So you increased your fund balance from last year by 130,000. And the reason for that is because of your your operating revenues were greater than your operating expenditures. And the main reason for that is because you came in under budget with your expenditures by around $300,000. And then once you did your budgeted transfer that you had planned on doing, you ended up at 130,000. Again, the thing that's going to be occurring basically in each fund is the property taxes came in lower than what were budgeted for it originally. You can see that in the top line in taxes. Budgeted for $3 million, ended up coming in at 2.7. We keep moving forward into page 29. 29 and 30 are even further detailed out for your general fund if you really want to see what was going on within each of those individual areas. And again, page 29, you're seeing what the property taxes, how they came in lower than what was budgeted for. As we keep going forward, page 31 is the debt service fund, another one of your major funds. You can see that you ended up with a $66,000 increase from the prior year because your interest charges ended up being lower than what was budgeted for, but again, property taxes being lower. Next page, page 32, is showing there was an increase, the increase because of the transfer in from the general fund. No other activities. This is your capital projects fund that you've set aside. And I'll end up referring us to one more set of pages of financial statements. Keep moving forward to page 33, 34. These are all of our non-major funds. So in the earlier parts of the statements, you were seeing a summary of all of these. This is the detailed breakout of all these other funds. All smaller funds for you, but they're setting aside money for specific purposes that you guys have. With us really focusing in on page 35 and 36. This would be your income statement showing your kind of net increases and decreases during the year for each of these funds. As you can see here on page 35, there's your IMRF with the fund balances going negative in the current year of where the management letter comment came from. Again, not significant due to the dollar amount, just something for you to be aware of. Last page I would like to point out to you guys is basically the last page of the
If you don't
financials.
mind,
Yeah.
did we have, so that IMRF fund went negative, did we have to cover that from a different fund? Is that
Yeah,
how that
yes,
has to work?
yeah, essentially because like general fund would be covering that money.
Okay.
On page, you can see, yes, I mean, that's how it would work in theory. You guys have cash on the books. You haven't gone negative in your cash flow, in your actual cash, but because of the way property taxes receivable and deferred lays out, you guys defer all of your money for the next year's levy. So you've collected some of your next year's levy balance already before June 30th, which you defer that money to next year. All right, so for the 2012 levy, you've levied that money. You've collected some of that money prior to June 30th, okay? With the way you guys recognize your revenue, it's going into next year, even though you've collected it now, okay? Does that make sense? So you've used some of that cash that you're really recognizing for next year today. This is where you've used it.
Okay.
So
Even within that fund? or-
Within that fund,
Okay,
yes,
got it.
within that fund.
Okay.
You can kind of see that on page 33, where you have property taxes that are deferred of $123,000. So that is what you guys are levying for your 2012 levy. You guys have collected the difference between 123 and 62,000 is how much you've collected of that levy before June 30th. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay.
So that money that you have collected is, you're waiting to actually recognize it as revenue next year.
Okay.
Just a
Typically, what
timing
we've done
difference.
in the past is just made asked for the money to be transferred. But because when I come in May to transfer money to the special reserve, I still don't really know the final number. So George and I already discussed it, and then we'll just do that at the end of this next fiscal year. Assume what we think might be the deficit in that fund, if there is, plus what's already there, and transfer it from the budget and our regular operating fund, and I kind of built it in for this year that we could cover that. And another thing was, up until this last year, that fund even had a, so we were actually specifically under levying in certain of those funds to use up those balances because they're restricted only to those funds. And so that part of that is catch up, and you need to remember too that the budget in here is the budget and appropriation. It's not what we live by. It's not our working budget.
Yeah.
So it's not numbers we're really actually basing our financial decisions on, but it's how we have to do it for the levy and the other documents that go to the county. So I'm not surprised by it. It's not a concern because we have more than enough, but we were spending it even in the one other fund that we had. We spent more than we said we budgeted. I actually under levied in the liability fund, the risk management for the insurance for the building, knowing we had a surplus in that fund to kind of spend it down, so to speak. because otherwise the dollars are just sitting there and they can only be used for those insurance
Right.
purposes. So part of it has been me doing that year after year to get these balances closer to zero in these non-major funds, so that then we can get as many dollars into the general fund where we have a lot more leeway to do whatever we want with those funds. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, because as Joy was referring to, like wanting to make sure you end up using all of those expenses that you, like those property taxes for those separate funds, that's where you end up with those restricted balances on those combined financial statements at the front, where it's not within unrestricted to be able to be used for anything, like the FICA audit, those ones that I pointed out at the beginning. Last thing I just want to point out is on page 46 and 47. Basically the reason why with some of the property tax issues, where if you can look at the assessed value right now, you're at 920 million, which if you want to take in a historical context for this, is back, you can see back the 10 years, you're at between a 2005 and 2006 value. You guys are doing well when it comes to your percentage collected, as you can see at the bottom, 99%, basically 100 every single year. But the decrease in the assessed values only allows your property taxes to, go up and do so much.
And with 2012, it says percent collected, is that because of the,
That split.
that's split because of the,
Yep,
how we collect taxes, right?
exactly, yep.
Okay.
You'll collect the rest when your second installation comes in the next couple months.
Out of curiosity, what, this percent collected number, is that, say of the various units of government that you might deal with, is this number usually right just under 100%, or are, what's the range that you've seen in your experience there?
Wide. And again, it has so much to do with location. You can't, when you're looking at like a south side Cook County place, you may be ending up in below 90%, 85, 80% in some of those areas. But out here, your county, like between like DuPage, Lake, Will, a lot of those counties, they do a better job of making sure collections happen compared to maybe Cook County. So you may see a difference there. They end up building in a lot more cost and loss compared to maybe what maybe another county would in Cook County. But if you're looking at even within Cook, like your North Shore communities are going to be around where you guys are at, your 99, 100%. South side you can be down, 80, 85, very low. But out in your area here, typically it's right around the 99%.
Well, Matt, I have one question for you, unless you have anything else you wanted to
Nope,
bring up.
floor's yours,
Okay.
anything you have.
Did anything about our financial situation surprise you as you were performing this audit?
I would say no. You guys are very clean. It's always a very smooth audit with you every year. I guess today was my first time actually being within the building, and it is a gorgeous building. So I would say that was one thing that struck me when I walked in today. It's like this is really nice. So I commend you on that. But that doesn't have anything to do with the audit, I guess.
It's nice to hear that.
Yes, I was very impressed. I've always just been behind the scenes working with Leah and reviewing the audit box there, and any questions she has, she always goes through me to work through it. So I apologize for not having been here before, but as I said, it's like walking in the door. It's a beautiful place, and I know every year, Joy, it's very clean. The audit is very smooth. We have a very smooth audit each and every single year, always prepared when we walk in. So
Okay. All right, thank you.
because of that, I'm not surprised.
Any other questions for Matt? Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much
being
for
here.
taking the time tonight. Appreciate it.
Okay. Okay, and Joy, kudos to you for making that process
Absolutely.
smooth and being a good partner for our outside auditor. Thank you. Our next item, 7C, is a resolution determining the amount of money estimated to be necessary to be raised by the tax levy. This is per state law, a required ordinance every fiscal year. So this relates to, I guess, it relates to our fiscal year that we're already in. Would that be a fair way to say?
Yes, it really is, it relates more to the tax year, I guess, where we use this fiscal year's dates, but it's actually for
next
the,
fiscal year's.
it's like it's the 2014 tax year, which, but it's, but we,
2014, 2015.
right, but we actually adopted in the 2013, 2014 year, which is why it has those dates.
Okay.
It's always a little convoluted.
Yeah, yeah. I can never keep that straight. Okay. And I believe one of the things that, if I recall, that George brought up, that the abatement that we approved is not reflected here, but will, in a practical sense, decrease the taxes that Batavia taxpayers will pay to the library in next calendar year, which is, I guess, tax year 2013.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh, It's because the abatement doesn't get approved until January 2014, we're not allowed to reflect when there's something that hasn't happened yet. But we've actually already had our 3 big years. We front-loaded
Yes.
the abatement, so that the first 3 years were about $150,000 a year, $450,000 total. So the actual abatement starting in January 2014 for the next few years till the bond's been paid off will be relatively small, really just in a few $1,000s, I think, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah. So the big impact has taken place because we wanted it to be a big impact for 3 years. So.
Right.
But it will, in fact, the wild percentages that appear in this resolution will go down slightly because of the.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Comments or questions on
Plus,
this?
Doug, what makes it look a little fuzzy is when you're looking at the dollars, you're looking at what we actually got compared to what we're asking for. And we never get anywhere close to what we're asking. So you're not really looking at numbers on an equal plane. Thus, that's why there's some major skewing of the percentages. Plus, last year, the county actually didn't abate a certain portion, so we're kind of like, I mean, the taxpayers got the right rate, but they didn't do it for us, so there was just a little bit extra fuzziness on those bond numbers.
That's right. The year before, they
Right.
didn't implement the full abatement, and so last January
We
when
did a double abatement.
Yeah, we did the normal one, and they did the catch-up because of their error, which was perfectly legal, but it made, last January's abatement ended up being even greater than it would have otherwise been, so that when we compare the levy for this next tax year to last year's abated number, that's why we have this really large in the bond, Section 3, that's why the percentage is so large in that, because we're comparing a normal year with a year that was like about an abatement and a half, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
So the numbers just really don't make any literal sense. to
Right.
the field.
Right.
And I'm gonna ask a question, because well, this is a lot of Greek to me, but, under section D, discussion, number 3, fund balance on the white page. It says as of June 30th, the balance of this fund was approximately 160,000. And that it's an informal goal that the library maintain a balance of 250,000. What will this tax do to that balance? Will it get us to 250? Will it get us above 250? Do we know?
It's basically gonna keep us about the same place that we were when, I started here. That fund didn't have a balance. So
Okay.
we have been working to get some excess money in that fund, because that's our building and maintenance fund, to offset, projects sometimes that the actual regular budget can't maintain. My guess is it's going to stay
Where are you
around
looking?
that level.
Where are you looking, Francine?
She's
What
talking about-
report are you looking at?
It's the letter, the memorandum, the white memorandum.
Oh, you're looking in the consent agenda.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Should I be looking somewhere else?
That was
We're actually.
that was a
on-
different ordinance.
You're looking at the ordinance, you gotta look at the resolution.
Oh,
We're looking
sorry.
at 7C.
Okay, I'm sorry, it's a lot of paper here.
So that is a correct goal for
Right.
the
Yes.
building and maintenance fund. That was the building and maintenance fund,
Okay.
yeah. That's a good question.
Oh, here it is. Okay, I finally found it.
That was the,
All right.
yeah. That ordinance actually did a levy. This one is a proposed, it's like the lead up to a levy.
Or annual levy.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
And yes, it is confusing.
Yeah. Okay.
In fact, that ordinance for the building and maintenance levy has to be enacted separately from the annual levy, but that amount is part of the annual levy. Because it has to be enacted each year as a separate action, because
It's just a separate tax line on your
Yeah.
bill. There's a cap on it.
yeah, right, there's a separate,
Okay. All right. Any other questions on 7C? Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Second by Blodgett. Roll call, please.
Popick,
Aye.
Blodgett,
Aye.
Leachman,
Aye.
Jackowski.
Aye.
Sullivan,
Aye.
Schuster, aye.
Okay. Thank you. That resolution is approved. Item 8 is the President's report. I guess one thing, I guess a piece of good news and bad news from the past month. We did have what I considered to be a favorable ruling on the ongoing litigation with the Geneva Library District. But the bad news from my perspective was the fact that Geneva chose to appeal that ruling and continue this process with, unfortunately, the taxpayers from both library districts footing the bill for that continuation. So it's terribly unfortunate, but that's I guess the situation we'll have to live with. So with that, we'll get on to some better news, which is item 9, good news or comments from the board. Anyone have anything to share for this month?
There's a notation there's a document in here, or newspaper article. George did a nice presentation for the Historical Society on the football rivalry between Geneva and Batavia, and it was very well received and appreciated. I attended my first football game in a long time, St. Charles North versus Batavia this past Friday night, and
Good game.
and it was a great game. And our neighbor boy, who's plays center on the team, autographed his picture in the paper the next day after one of those great touchdowns. And I was mentioning some of these statistics. We gave him a copy of George's information, and he was not aware that the team used to be called the Vikings, and so that was taken, and I'm sure he'll pass that along to some other people in the football organization. So, again, we just appreciate George's interest in so many things and his willingness to share his knowledge with the community.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. I guess there is more than one rivalry between the two communities going on at the same time. Okay, anyone else? All right, item 10 is correspondence and communication. We had a couple things, newspaper articles basically in your packet for this week. George, anything to highlight in particular here?
Not really. Back to these in chronological order. I guess the one thing that I found most amusing was the last one in the packet, Geneva Public Library at Crossroads, where the author, Rick Hollinger, describes the three libraries. And I guess Batavia is the Joe Cool espresso drinking black t-shirt and swaggering hipster.
That's us.
I just I don't know where I came from, but I got the biggest kick out of that. So I'll highlight that for the viewers at home. So. Otherwise,
Yeah,
these are.
I find that curious as well.
Apparently, we're cool.
We are.
That's right. Anyway,
I've been called worse things.
That's right.
Okay.
Are we the only library with a coffee house in it? Does that have something to do with it?
There are not a huge number that have any kind of vending, cafe, coffee service, and none that
I
I
meant
can think of.
within his comparison here.
That could be. That could be it.
Okay. Then item 11, we'll start off with our director's report. George had a memo in our packets. Anything to highlight here, George?
Well, I sent this out by email, but I put the detail in the director's report as well about the very generous gifts from the Friends of the Batavia Public Library, and I want to publicly acknowledge them again for their generosity. A total of $14,303 worth of grants for equipment and programs, and we're just very grateful for the support. That's my.
Okay. Yes, definitely thanks to the Friends for their continued support. Okay.
We have Joanne
Yeah.
and Stacy.
Joanne?
Go over here. Just a couple things to highlight out of my report. We do have 3 new databases in the use that we're offering to students: the Ancient and Medieval History Online, Chelsea House Biographies, and World Almanac for Children. All 3 are very, very good, very well documented and authenticated databases, and they are easily accessed either here at the library, or patrons can go online from home to access them with a library card number. So they're brand new. We've just got them up earlier this month, and we're hoping students will be using them very quickly. Bookmark contest this month, so if you know of any children in grades 1 to 5 who would like to participate in that, we'd love to have them. And you should be seeing another article about the Batavia Public Library coming very shortly in the Kane County Chronicle. And last month at Art in Your Eye, one of our Born to Read committee members was approached by Brenda Shorey for the Man on the Street article, and Linda Sullivan was interviewed and mentioned that her favorite charity was Born to Read, and hence Brenda Shorey contacted me about Born to Read and early literacy. So that article will be coming shortly. They were here today to take pictures at Baby Story Time. And I also want to hand out, please take one. The Born to Read Committee was looking at some ways to promote Born to Read. And at our spring meeting, the idea came up to, why don't we do postcards, and then we could hand those out if we're at a community event, or if we go, members are at a doctor's office, or we might put these in the welcome wagon bags. And so Maureen worked with Hans Kaiser and Michelle in promotional services to develop this bilingual postcard. And so many of the committee members took stacks of them at our last meeting last week and are going to hand them out. I would encourage you, if you know of someone in Batavia who's going to be having a baby soon, pass this along to them and they can come in to get their baby bag when the new baby comes. Maureen, do you want to say anything more about it? I think it's a great
I think it's
promotional
great.
piece.
I don't know why we didn't think of it before, just to have a postcard to just hand someone. We're going to go to Backfest and put these at the food pantry, or any of you have any ideas where you think a good spot would be to put these or to give them to, that would be appreciated, because we really just want to get the word out about Born to Read.
So it's I think it's a great idea, and committee members were very anxious. We've put up posters and things like that, but we really think this is going to be a great thing as well.
Each of the churches have literature racks.
And we might put some on, yes, everybody took some for their church racks and some for the doctor's offices and things like that. I'm going to send out another little flyer that you're welcome to take and pass it along to a young family if you know. We are hosting once again our preschool fair. We offer this in conjunction with Geneva Public Library. We've invited the preschools in Batavia and Geneva Library districts to our open house format, and we've been getting over 100 people every year at this, and young families come, and we've already had calls about when this is going to be happening again. So if you know of somebody who might be looking for a preschool in the area, this is a great way to meet a lot of staff from these different preschools and to also see what their programs are.
How many schools come to this event?
Well, it varies. Not all of them come, but we've had typically between 16 and 20.
I had no idea there were that many schools.
Yeah.
Just Batavia and Geneva, there's
Yeah,
more than
yeah. Well, the
60.
churches and, preschools and
Does the park district?
the park district comes. The school district actually has 2 preschool programs going on right now. And so between Batavia and Geneva, 16 is pretty typically what we're seeing around there. So
Is this advertised in the paper also?
it is out in the newspaper. I think Michelle, I don't know if it's been out already. She sends things and then they stick them in when they have
Right.
time and things like that. And we're putting up some posters as well. So
It'd be in Neighbors too, I think. But
it was in Neighbors, yes. And,
it was in the current issue, right?
it's in the current. Well, I don't know. I think we did mention in the current issue, but then it'll be again in the November one. We did have 2, I wanted to make mention of 2 programs. We did a nature series this fall on Saturday mornings, and we were kind of wondering how a Saturday morning program would go, because isn't everybody in soccer? And in September, the turtle program, we had over 100 people there to see turtles. We still have people talking about the turtles.
Yes.
And this past Saturday, we had an owl program. We had over 80 people there, and he had 5 different owls, and it was an amazing show. So those are very well received. And I do want to mention then, for my last thing, we have 2 upcoming community events. Batfest will be participating in a week from Saturday. We'll be doing stories and songs, hopefully down in the reading garden if the weather holds out. Otherwise, we'll be in the large meeting room. And the Batavia's annual celebration of lights. We are once again hosting stories, and so I'm looking for 1 or 2 trustees who might be interested in being guest readers. Let me know after the meeting or sometime before the beginning of November, and we'd love to put you in the lineup. So
That's December 1st this year.
That is December
December
1st,
1st.
Sunday, December 1st, and reading goes generally from about 6:15 till 7 p.m. on that Sunday. That's the Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend. Questions?
You've got one more nature program coming up too, right?
We do. It's in November. It is a Sunday afternoon this time, and that he's doing spiders and snakes
Creepy
and
crawly.
all kinds of creepy crawly things. So that I'm sure will be an also large crowd.
Your son should be.
Oh, yeah.
I did have some neighbors attend the owl one, and they just loved it. They just were fascinated by it.
Yes, he had an amazing group of owls. It was really something, from a very tiny one like this to big
He
owls.
said when they spread the small, it wasn't even the biggest one, and he spread his
Oh, the bigger
wings,
one.
and it was amazing.
Impressive.
Impressive.
Mhm. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joanne. Stacy, welcome.
Thank you. First thing, I'm going to send around the updated Books Between Bites flyer. We have a new coffee shop, and one of the events has been updated. So this is the updated flyer for you to have. We've got a wonderful season coming up this year with a really nice variety of programs. I think there's something for just about every interest. And even if something doesn't look interesting, it's bound to be when you get there, because the presenters will make the topic interesting. So we're looking forward to the next event is coming up this Thursday. So we hope that anyone who has an hour to spare midday on the third Thursday will join us for Books Between Bites. I've also included in the report a sampling of some of the comments from the reference satisfaction survey. This is the little third of a sheet, half sheet that we have available for people to pick up at the reference desk, and they can rate us and they can add comments. And a surprising number of people write comments, and they are almost uniformly nice. So I've given you a smattering here. People commenting on Lee and Christine being helpful, Laura being very pleasant and helpful, Astrid spending a great deal of time helping, and my favorite is, without the people at the reference desk, I would be lost. So we get some nice comments there that people don't actually say out loud, but they're willing to write them down. So we're glad to get that feedback. Any questions about my report? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. All right, yeah, this Books Between Bites, this of events looks very interesting. Okay, on to item 12, committee reports. Andrew, anything from the facilities committee?
Well, we did get the bids in for the work for the audiovisual improvements in the meeting room next door. We did get a bid to do some work in here and decided we're better off saving the money for future work, whether it be here or somewhere else, just because we don't often need audiovisual in this room. We got the prices in for the lavatory. Those were right on budget. The AV work was a little more than we expected, just because of some of the soundproofing that's going to be required to separate the meeting areas. But all in all, I think the proposals came in pretty well. We had a lot of interest in it. We got a few good bids for each of them. So I think all in all, the guys over at Studio GC did a good job for us.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Andrew? Okay, 12D is a services committee report, and the majority of our meeting that night was focused on a closed session discussion. So I won't report on that this evening, but thanks to the trustees who took time to attend, who weren't part of that committee. I didn't miss any substantive items from the closed session, did I? Okay. Okay. 12E is the Library Foundation. Kara, anything to report?
I wasn't there.
There was not a quorum this month, so
Okay.
There we go. There wasn't a quorum.
we expected a quorum, but
Okay.
Oh, really?
a quorum did not arrive, so we did not have a meeting.
There you go.
Got it, okay. Then 12F is report from the Friends Group.
All right. The Friends Group, as George mentioned, the highlight of that meeting was granting the library wish list of many projects that were worthwhile projects, and some projects that made the group laugh. But the worthwhile projects were all given really great funding.
They laughed in a good way.
Laughed in a good way, right. And you can ask me later about what they laughed about. The next book sale, will be a holiday sale in December. And they've received a lot of 1800s books lately, which is kind of exciting to get some really old stuff. And they talked about ads in Neighbors for All Hallows Read, and coupons that will give people an opportunity to come in and save some money on books. And they again mentioned that they had attended the Windmill Symposium and they received a donor plaque, and they thought the program was very good. And there was some discussion about some paintings from Marilyn Robinson, who was very active in the Historical Society, a teacher and an artist. And I'm not sure if you have an update on that, George, or not, but the city has these paintings and they're trying to decide whether they want to keep them or not. They were donated to the Friends of the Library. And we're not sure if they fit in here at the library or not, so we're giving is that kind of the idea on that?
Yeah, and the city hall has a collection of
local artists, right?
Local artists, and they didn't have any Marilyn Robinson, so the Friends, through me actually, I was the agent for the Friends, offered it to the city, and they're giving some thought to it. So hopefully we'll hear back soon.
And they're talking about how we have stations at metro stations. We've got kind of like little mini libraries that we're doing in conjunction with Batavia, Geneva, and St. Charles to give commuters an opportunity to...
Yeah, the 3 libraries do a rack at the track.
Right, a free library. Little free library. So there's one
We're considering donating some books to that, if I'm not mistaken. I think, was that the gist of the conversation? I'm not sure.
They had talked about maybe looking at expanding that. Midwest Living has kind of featured this idea of little free libraries, and I guess there is one in St. Charles. And so we talked about the possibility of us doing something like that as well. I think that's about it, George. Did I miss anything?
No?
Okay.
Okay.
Questions for Francine? All right, thank you. And then 12G is Link. Kara, anything to report there?
No, we won't have a meeting until November, and that's when we'll
Okay.
be passing the bylaws, the new bylaws.
Okay. All right, thank you. And item 13 is future agenda items. You have a list of some things that are upcoming. Any comments or questions on those? Item 14 is a potential item for, for discussion this evening at least. We have the option to either meet on December 17 or cancel that meeting. Does anyone have any input about that proposition?
Do we have anything like pending that we need to go?
No, not really. All the big items have been approved.
When are we hoping to mobilize the contractors?
Right after Thanksgiving. So
We won't have any pay requests or anything that we'll need to work on because they won't have any time to complete any work, so they're not.
no,
gonna have
we
time
don't
to submit
expect
it.
anything until January for that. Yeah, so really, and in fact, they'll be doing some soundproofing work in this room. If we're lucky, all that'll be over by December 17th, but we've only met once in the almost 9 years I've been here. We've only met once in December. So it's really up to you as to whether you want to be or not. There are in fact no particular action items for December.
Okay.
If you don't want to meet, we'll have a formal action for you next month, because the Open Meetings Act requires the board to approve, adopt a regular meeting schedule each year, so what we'll do is we'll revise the regular meeting schedule. A little bit of red tape for everything that we do.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah, as long as we don't have any action items in there, yeah.
Great, okay. So George, let's have that ordinance for next month then.
Okey-doke.
And then item 15 is upcoming meetings and events. And then item 16 is a motion to adjourn. Do I hear such a motion?
I move to adjourn.
Okay, moved by Schuster and second by Blodgett. All in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you.